Hello, trainers! Professor Palm here, and welcome to October, the month of horror. But for me, it's the spooky season. And for the entire month of October, I thought we'd do something very fun. This whole month, we'll be covering ghost Pokemon as well as dark type. So, if you like those typings, then strap in, because this whole month, we're going to talk about some spooky and some horrific Pokemon. As the month of October begins, I'm curious to know, what's your plan for it? Also, what are you going to do for Halloween? There's a lot of stuff that happens for the month of October, and a lot of channels are going to be showing a lot of scary movies. Are you a fan of the horror movies? Well, if you are, you've always noticed one thing about it, and it's the fact that for most slasher movies, the killer always goes on a killing spree, but they oftentimes have no weakness. It's very strange. As you know, almost every Pokemon in the world has a weakness. Fire type are weak to water type. Psychic type are weak to dark type. Grass is weak to flying. You get the idea. Almost every Pokemon out there has a weakness. However, I didn't say all Pokemon have weaknesses. There are a few Pokemon out there with a dual typing that have no weakness. That's right. By that, every move that hits it is never a super effective move. You might be asking yourself, what combo is that? Well, I'll tell you. We already talked about it earlier. It's none other than Dark and Ghost. And there are two Pokemon alive with this combination. When they had it, there was no weakness to them, as these Pokemon were really tough. Who were they, you might be asking? Well, look no further than the caves in Hoenn to find yourself a Sableye. And then it came back in the Sinnoh region. Go to the Hollowed Tower and you'll find yourself the other Pokemon without weakness, Spiritomb. Now these Pokemon are vengeful ghosts who have such horrible dark power. Ever thought of having yourself a world without weakness? Well, look no further than these Pokemon. I also want to tell you that having that incredible dual typing of Ghost and Dark, or Dark and Ghost, whichever way you look at it, can be very helpful, especially when fighting competitively, since these Pokemon have horrible powers. Unlimited evil power! Yep. These Pokemon can really put your opponent in a pickle. So, if you want to fight competitively with Ghost or Dark type, why not combine the two together and use one of these Pokemon? They are incredible. Well, for the month of October, the best thing we could do is dim the lights, grab ourselves some popcorn, maybe some of our favorite candy, as well as some candy corn, and let's watch and listen to some scary stories about Pokemon. That's right. Take my hand and follow me to the horror show. But before we talk about any horror stories, what does Spiritomb look like to you? For me, this Pokemon looks like a hurricane, and that's a true horror story that just happened. Hurricane Ian. If you were not aware of what was going on, Hurricane Ian was originally just Tropical Storm Ian, but out of nowhere, it upgraded to Category 4. While a Category 4 isn't a Category 5 hurricane, it still is terrible. There have been so many houses, places, and so much debris from this hurricane, and there's even flooding in many parts of Florida. I actually am a Floridian, and I feel so lucky that I didn't get one hit of that, but I did get a tropical storm side of it. Who cares about that, mostly? I just want to say that my heart has been going out to all the victims of Hurricane Ian. A lot of people have lost their houses, a lot of people are without power, and a lot of people are very depressed. If you've been having a bad year, I don't think that this can possibly top what so many people are going through. We were told it was just something small, and it became something terrible. If you have any friends here in Florida, please call them. Please do whatever you can just to bring some smiles to them. I feel horrible that Ian did all this damage. Right now, we really need the Pokemon Rayquaza to keep the skies nice and clear. But also, we need Ho-Oh to give us a rainbow of hope. For those of you who tune into the channel where Hurricane Ian hit, I hope that I can give you a good laugh this week because I feel terrible for what happened. So I hope that everything turns around and that things get better. Well, I think it's on with the show. The horror show, that is. Before we begin, I want to give a very special thanks to my fellow subscriber, Mitchell Hockman. These are two of your favorite Pokemon of all time, and I gotta say, since they have no weakness, what a great choice. Remember, this episode is dedicated to you, my friend, so I hope that you enjoy. But you're not the only person that I'm thanking here. HTTP Koopa, I want to give you a very special thanks for my jersey. This is actually the Dark-type jersey worn by Gym Leader Piers, who was the very first Dark-type Gym Leader, Marnie's brother, and the leader of Team Yell. Did you like Team Yell, or did you not really like them? Also, did you like Piers' battle? And did you really like Marnie as well? I would love to know from you guys. But most of all, I just have to say, if you love Dark-type Pokemon, or you really did like Team Yell, then I would personally say you should buy this shirt. I'm definitely not sponsored by HTTP Koopa, but of course I want to give him good business. I mean, look at this shirt. This looks like you actually bought it in the Galar region. How cool is that? After all, how many other shirts do you have that actually make it look like that not only were you there in the Galar region, but you also feel that you were in that battle? Weakness? What's that? I have none. That's what these Pokemon would say, as they have absolutely no weakness. Something you should also know about these Pokemon is, surprisingly, even though they're different, they're not as different as they have a connection with rocks. While Sableye has a connection with gemstones, Spiritomb has a connection with a different kind of rock that it is bound to. Maybe if these Pokemon had 3 typings, they would also have the rock typing. Who knows? But I think it's time that we go and learn all about these Pokemon and what makes them so special. So, put on your exploration hat, turn on your light, and let's go spelunking, looking for some lovely gemstones. Who are we going to have to lead the way? Well, we'll have none other than the lovely darkness Pokemon itself, Sableye. Sableye the Darkness Pokemon is based on the urban legend, the Hopkinsville Goblin, which was a creature from an alleged alien encounter. A lot of people see this Pokemon as an alien. I do too, but this Pokemon reminds me of a different alien creature, and that would be Stitch from Disney's Lilo and Stitch, who was created by evil genius Dr. Jamba Juplica as his experiment 626. Sableye live quiet lives in dark places, like caves, as these Pokemon love the darkness. Also, if you ever look at Sableye, you'll notice that this Pokemon has a pair of diamonds for eyes. Despite what many think, Sableye aren't blind. These diamond eyes are amazing, and they can see in the darkest of places. Also, this Pokemon can see as well as hear very well. So yeah, sneaking by this Pokemon isn't possible. And with its ability of Keen Eye with diamond-like eyes, this Pokemon not only has great accuracy that can't be lowered, but it also has a great sense of finding which are the best gems in the cave. If you look upon the back of a Sableye, you'll notice that this Pokemon has a little bit of an Easter egg with its 3 gemstones. If you look very carefully, they appear to be a ruby, a sapphire, and of course an emerald, basically showing the 3 games that this Pokemon came in the Hoenn region. This also is a bit of a teaser, as first there were only Ruby and Sapphire. Emerald didn't come until 2 years later. While you could interpret this as a teaser showing a 3rd game was coming, you could also see these 3 gemstones on Sableye's back representing the Super Ancient, aka the Weather Trio, Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, since they were the main trio of the Hoenn region, which was also the region that Sableye debuted in. Despite Sableye's lovely appearance of gems, this Pokemon is feared by so many. If you're surprised, well, here's the reason why. When its gemstone eyes begin to glow with a sinister shine, it's believed that Sableye is stealing somebody's spirit, and it holds it deep within its body. So, if you look carefully at those diamonds, they're not just for show. Inside, they house the spirits of lost souls. While this definitely is very scary, something you should know is that most wild Sableye are very harmless creatures, as they just like to live quietly in the dark. But they do exhibit some fiendish behavior, but do not worry, once again, this will not hurt you, as the fiendish behavior only happens when they're hungry, as these Pokemon go crazy trying to find gemstones to eat. Yep, The favorite food of these Pokemon are none other than delicious, bright gemstones. When very hungry, Sableye will dig through the ground with its very sharp claws, and these claws can dig through anything. Nothing stands in this Pokemon's way. They can even break through the hardest of steel just to get their gemstones. Yep, this Pokemon's behavior says nothing stops me from having lunch or my precious gemstones. And during this frenzy, they kind of become a little greedy as they really don't like to share their gems. Then again, finders keepers. Since this Pokemon has a diet of gemstones only, sometimes it likes to snack on the Pokemon Carbink. Yep, this Pokemon can be a little horrifying when it eats a Carbink. Also, with the whole Terrassel phenomenon coming in Gen 9, I would say it's best to keep a Sableye far away from your other Pokemon, because not only will it eat them, but if it terrasselizes, it'll probably eat itself as well. Since Sableye only eats gemstones, its eyes have turned into gemstones because of this diet. One thing well known about this diet is the substances inside the crystals as well as gemstones is very good for Sableye's body surface, as the more it eats, the shinier its gems and its body will become. Did you know that red chest gemstone is the most important thing to Sableye? Yeah. When this Pokemon undergoes Mega Evolution, that red gem glows gigantic, and it's also Sableye's most treasured possession. So yeah, there's a reason why this Pokemon is so greedy about that gem. It was theirs to begin with, and that gem is now their greatest weapon. It can block any attack. But sadly, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, as not only does it block every attack, it's very heavy, and it also weighs down a Mega Sableye. Sadly, I don't have a Mega Sableye plushie, but that's what you should know. Also, its eyes have become blood red, well, blood red diamond, and I think that makes it look even cooler. It definitely shows that this Pokemon is not to be messed with. Sableye made its anime debut in the Pokemon Advanced episode, Ready, Willing, and Sableye, where it was playing tricks on Ash and his friends because it was trying to get its gems back. In the games, Sableye is the signature Pokemon of Elite Four Ghost-type specialist, Phoebe. It's also seen as the counterpart of Mawile, as both these Pokemon have always been version-exclusive only Pokemon since the Hoenn region. For the very first Pokemon without a weakness, it definitely shines bright like a diamond, as it can lure others with that shiny body of gems. But who would have guessed that one region later, we get a Pokemon with the same dual typing, and it even gains a cousin? Well, this Pokemon doesn't have the shiniest cousin, but it definitely has a very spooky and creepy cousin. So, it's time to go to the Hollow Tower and reveal the forbidden power. Let's get spooky for Spiritomb! And trust me, this is a Pokemon that spells doom. Spiritomb, the forbidden Pokemon, is based on the Norwegian folklore spirit Dildegas. Because this Pokemon is bound to the odd keystone, Dildegas was also bound to a stone by the gods and was punished that wherever it had to go, it had to haul around the stone. Very similar to how Spiritomb moves around. Something kind of interesting about Spiritomb is, like the movie, the number 23, this Pokemon is heavily associated with the number 108. What do I mean? Well, several of its Pokedex entries state that this Pokemon was formed with 108 spirits. For Spiritomb's defense and special defense stat, it falls to the numbers 108. Spiritomb weighs exactly 108 kilograms. In the game's Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Spiritomb can only be caught on what other route than 108. In Pokemon Go, it can be encountered at the end of a very special research project that requires, you guessed it, 108 berries and 108 Pokemon to be captured. And at long last, Spiritomb is Pokemon, you guessed it, 108 in both the Hisui and the Sinnoh Pokedex, and it can only be encountered after the Wisp event, where you gather yourself 108 spirits. Wow, the number 108 really comes in handy for this Pokemon, and it's part of its life. I wonder what that actually means. Sadly, we'll never have a real reason, as there's never been any reason why this number always associates with it. About 500 years ago, Spiritomb was a mischievous troublemaker, bringing all sorts of misdeeds and chaos to people and Pokemon alike. Because people really didn't like this Pokemon, not only did they fear it, but they dreaded it because of all the things that would happen along with Spiritomb and what it could do. Spiritomb had a lot of fun pulling pranks and misdeeds on many people and Pokemon alike, but one day this Pokemon made a major mistake and it pulled a joke that went incorrectly on the wrong Pokemon, and that of course was Arceus. And of course, Arceus did not take very well to that joke. This resulted in Spiritomb being bound to the Odd Keystone by a mysterious spell by the Alpha Pokemon, and this is why this Pokemon has an Odd Keystone with it. It's basically Spiritomb's divine punishment for what it did to Arceus. Not just being bound to a Keystone, but being trapped within the Hollowed Tower. If you look at Spiritomb, you'll always notice that this Odd Keystone is with it. Well, let me tell you, never by any means remove this Odd Keystone, as this is the only thing that keeps Spiritomb bound from ever going on that terrifying spree again. Lots of people in Pokemon will suffer at its misdeeds and its mischief again. Also, I don't think Arceus will take too kindly to making another spell holding this Pokemon back. This Odd Keystone is the most important thing you could have, so always make sure that it stays perfectly fine and never cracks. Spiritomb made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Battle Dimension episode, The Keystone Pops. You see, in this episode, Ash and Weasel were having a training match against Dawn and Apom when Weasel accidentally knocked into the Hollowed Tower, releasing Spiritomb. This Pokemon went on a massive spree of chaos until Ash finally managed to reseal it back in the Hollowed Tower. In the games, Spiritomb is a member of Champion Cynthia's team, and it's also the very first Pokemon she sends out in her battle. Remember, since this Pokemon has no weakness, it really sets the stage of how hard Cynthia's battle is. Also, with its move pool, yeah, you're up for a very hard battle, and Spiritomb just sets the stage. If you manage to get one in the games of Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, as well as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, then you were amazing, because getting this Pokemon in the wild was a nightmare. I don't even think Darkrai makes nightmares as crazy as this thing. What you had to do was you had to get the Odd Keystone and then go to the Crumbling Tower, turning it into the Hollowed Tower. But wait! There's more! Then you have to go into the Underground, or the Grand Underground, depending on what games you have, and you have to greet 32 different people. Yes, thankfully they can always be the same person, but it's still a nightmare. Only then can you go to the Hollow Tower and then catch yourself a Spiritomb. But on the bright side, this Pokemon does have a catch rate of 100, so don't worry, at least catching it was easy. But getting it, oh, how many hoops did we have to jump through? As time has gone on, I know, like everyone else, that now Spiritomb and Sableye are weak to Fairy-type attacks, being their only weakness. While I made the whole video about these Pokemon having no weakness, I just wanted to take you back to a time before Generation 6 and before Fairy-type existed, that these Pokemon reigned supreme as the first dual typings without any weakness. Being that these Pokemon are dual typing, they also have a lot of strengths, actually. For a dual typing of Ghost and Dark, or Dark and Ghost, these Pokemon have a couple of strengths, and what's really cool about it is its typing can be 4 times effective on its strengths. So these Pokemon are very strong against Psychic, and the other ×4 strength that both Sableye and Spiritomb have is on Ghost-type Pokemon. While there are no dual-type moves, if there was, it would be the strongest against both Ghost and Psychic. I also stand corrected, dear trainers. I said that both Spiritomb and Sableye's typing only has 2 immunities. Actually, there's 3. These Pokemon are immune to Fighting, Normal, and Psychic. Being that these Pokemon are also not just immune to Psychic, but are super effective on Psychic, makes them the type advantage against Psychic types. You want to know something rather funny about these Pokemon? Sableye, being a Pokemon that likes to eat gems and has very sharp teeth, cannot learn any Fang moves, nor Crunch or Bite. And Spiritomb, being a Pokemon that has a lot of Torment to give to other people and Pokemon alike, can't learn the move Torment. Pretty funny, I gotta say. I would also say that if you ever have to take on the Pokemon Regigigas, or a very powerful Pokemon that's a normal typing, or even a Pokemon that's a fighting type, these are the perfect Pokemon to have by your side. The reason why is most of the moves of those Pokemon are not able to hurt these, as they are Ghost and Dark. And also, since they have no weakness, it makes them very helpful to have on any team. It's rather interesting that both these Pokemon, being with no weakness, are always associated with something having to do with rocks or even gems. I think that's pretty interesting. As I said before, I think that if they had a third typing, a rock typing would be great for them. But it's also pretty interesting that one is bound to a place made entirely of stone, while the other one is allowed to move wherever it wants but prefers to be in the dark with lots of beautiful gemstones. It is kind of interesting that these Pokemon both have something to do with rocks despite being dark and ghost. I wonder if somebody was thinking of rocks both times when they were creating these Pokemon. There's many names you could give these Pokemon. Freaky, creepy, terrifying, but for me, I really like their typing combo, and I like to call them after my favorite elemental hero in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and that is none other than the Dark Hero himself, Necroshade. I think that just has such a good name for these Pokemon, as not only are they ghost types that can talk with other ghost types, but they're dark as well, making that a perfect name. If you love the month of fear, as well as dark things, as well as spooky things, then look no further than these Pokemon. They make great partners for your team. They also are very competitive, so yeah, I'd love to see how you take on somebody with these things. I'm pretty sure that you're going to have a very easy victory. But just remember that these Pokemon may not have any weaknesses, but they can go down. So not every time you have one is it going to be a great battle. But since one is a signature Pokemon of an Elite Forest, and the other is the very first Pokemon the champion sends out, and that starts the stage of how hard it's going to be, I would say definitely catch these Pokemon. They'll be great on your journey, and of course, they'll be one spooky encounter. Who would have ever guessed that Dark and Ghost was such a great typing? It wasn't just used for one region, but two consecutively. That's incredible. But you also have to admit, these Pokemon are rather terrifying with the fact that they steal souls and that they play scary pranks as they have a dangerous sense of humor. Yeah, I think it's probably best to stay away from them. But if you really like them, by all means catch them. Also, with the whole terrestrial phenomenon, what do you think would be great for these Pokemon to become? Do you think that they should become rocks when they terrestrialize? Or what do you think would be even better? Also, if they could have regional variants, what would you think Sableye should have? Or what do you think Spiritomb should have? I really would love to hear from you guys. If you liked what you saw, please drop a like. If you have an idea for a video, you want me to talk about another ghost or even a dark type Pokemon for the month of October, the spooky season, please comment. And as always, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. My heart still goes out to everyone who's a victim of Hurricane Ian. I know things are hard, but don't worry, things will turn around. Right now, Ho-Oh is on its way to bring you a rainbow of hope, and Rayquaza's probably in the sky right now, clearing it up for you. I hope the best for you. And I hope that at least I gave you a little bit of a laugh or maybe introduced you to some new things you didn't know. Either way, I'm hoping the best for you. And thanks for watching. Palm out.